Imagine building an entire high-tech facility from the ground up in just 12 days. Not 12 weeks, not 12 months, 12 days. That's exactly what China pulled off in Serbia, a jaw-dropping infrastructure project that left engineers speechless, politicians grateful, and the rest of the world asking, how is this even possible? We will never forget the help of our Chinese friends. That quote didn't just make headlines. It made history. Because behind those words was a moment that marked the rise of a new kind of partnership, one built on speed, trust, and strategic cooperation. The project itself, completed in less than 2 weeks, wasn't just fast. It was symbolic. It told a story of a rising superpower showing up when it mattered most, and of a European country turning to the East for answers the West couldn't provide. Most nations would spend a year debating blueprints. China was already pouring concrete on day 2. And this wasn't a fluke. It was a carefully executed mission, combining logistics, manpower, and cutting-edge engineering into a display of what China now does best, building the future, fast. But this is just the beginning of the story. Because the question isn't just how China did it. It's why Serbia turned to China in the first place, and what that decision reveals about shifting global power. To understand why Serbia embraced China's help so quickly, we have to rewind, back to a time of war, loss, and betrayal. In the late 1990s, Serbia found itself isolated. After the breakup of Yugoslavia, the country became a symbol of political instability in the Balkans. And in 1999, when NATO forces bombed Serbia during the Kosovo conflict, many Serbs felt abandoned, punished by the West, not protected by it. Those scars never truly faded. Over the years, Serbia tried to rebuild, but its relationships with Western powers remained tense, cautious, and often cold. So when the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, and Serbia faced another moment of crisis, it hoped for help, but found little. While countries like Germany and France were busy handling their own emergencies, Serbia was left waiting. Medical supplies were scarce. Testing capacity was almost non-existent. Hospitals were overwhelmed. That's when China stepped in. China and Russia were among the first to offer assistance. But it was China that made the strongest impression, sending not only supplies but engineers, doctors, and full-scale infrastructure support. For many Serbians, this wasn't just foreign aid. It was emotional, it was timely, and it was in stark contrast to the cold shoulder from traditional allies. In a region that had grown wary of being treated like an afterthought, China's help felt like recognition, like respect. That's why when President Vučić stood in front of a crowd and publicly hugged the Chinese flag, it wasn't a political stunt. It was a message. We remember who stood with us. From that moment on, Serbia's alliance with China wasn't just strategic. It was personal. And the next chapter in this partnership would prove just how fast trust can turn into action, especially when China's speed meets Serbia's need. Back in China, the world watched in disbelief as workers built a fully functioning hospital in just 10 days. It wasn't a movie set. It wasn't CGI. It was real. And it worked. That moment showed the world something new. China could move at a speed that almost defied logic. And Serbia was watching. When COVID-19 hit hard and Serbia's testing system collapsed, the government made a bold call. Ask China for help, not just with supplies, but with the kind of infrastructure that could turn the tide. Within days, Chinese engineers, technicians, and medical teams landed in Belgrade. They didn't waste time. No long negotiations, no endless red tape. In just 12 days, they built 2 state-of-the-art FireEye virus detection labs. Before that, Serbia's testing capacity was almost symbolic. Only a few hundred tests per day. After the labs went live, that number jumped to 3,000 tests daily. Think about that. In less than 2 weeks, a country that couldn't track its outbreak suddenly had a weapon to fight back. But China didn't stop there. They donated 5 million medical masks, a fleet of ventilators, and even sent teams of Chinese doctors to help train Serbian staff. And all of this arrived when the rest of Europe was still scrambling for its own emergency stockpiles. That's when something unforgettable happened. President Vučić stood before cameras and embraced the Chinese flag. It wasn't just symbolism, it was a turning point. For Serbia, China wasn't just a distant partner anymore. It was a lifeline, a friend in a storm. And that trust, built during the pandemic, laid the foundation for something even bigger. Not just emergency aid, but a long-term transformation of Serbia's future. After the pandemic dust began to settle, China and Serbia didn't slow down. If anything, they sped up. The focus shifted from emergency survival to long-term growth. And what better way to shape the future than by literally building the roads and railways that lead there? Back in 2019, even before the labs and masks, China had already completed a major milestone in Serbia, a brand new highway linking Belgrade to southern cities and neighboring countries. This wasn't just a convenience project, it was a strategic artery, connecting landlocked Serbia to ports, trade routes, and markets beyond its borders. The Chinese-built highway became a backbone for regional trade, a fast lane to economic revival in a country still recovering from decades of instability. But that was just the beginning. As the last asphalt was poured, Serbia signed another deal with China, this time for something even more ambitious, a high-speed railway connecting Belgrade and Budapest. European companies had pitched rail projects too, but theirs were capped at 160 kilometers per hour. China, on the other hand, offered 250 kilometers per hour and cutting-edge technology. It was a no-brainer. China's engineers brought with them the same playbook used to crisscross their own country with thousands of kilometers of high-speed rail. Now that speed, that efficiency, was arriving in Europe's backyard. The line from Belgrade to Novi Sad, a key part of the project, came online first. With it, a journey that once took over 90 minutes now takes less than 40. For Serbia, this wasn't just a train. It was a symbol, a sign that the country was leaping into the future, with China as its engine. And that leap started reshaping how Serbia saw itself. Not as a forgotten player on the edge of Europe, but as a growing hub, connected, mobile, and ready for more. China's influence in Serbia isn't just built with steel, concrete, and high-speed rail. It's also built in classrooms, on stages, and in the minds of young people. Welcome to the Confucius Institute in Belgrade, a small building with a big mission to teach Chinese language and culture to the next generation of Serbians. What started as a niche cultural center is now a magnet for students curious about the world's second-largest economy. Each year, more and more young Serbians sign up to learn Mandarin, hoping it might give them a competitive edge, or a chance to study, work, or do business in China. It's a smart move, because as China invests in Serbia's infrastructure, it's also investing in understanding, building a human bridge between two countries with vastly different histories. These aren't just token gestures. They're part of a bigger strategy, one that many experts call soft power. While the West has long relied on pop culture and universities to spread its influence, China is crafting its own model through language, education, and shared experience. And Serbia is one of its most enthusiastic partners. Chinese New Year is now a celebrated event in Belgrade. Local festivals feature dragon dances and calligraphy workshops. Serbian students win scholarships to study at Chinese universities, returning home with not just degrees, but connections. This cultural exchange doesn't just benefit China, it reshapes how Serbia sees the world. It creates a generation that feels at ease working with Chinese partners, understanding Chinese norms, and seeing China not as a distant superpower, but as a close friend. In a world where influence is no longer just measured by military might or economic weight, China's cultural charm offensive is paying off. One student, one song, one shared holiday at a time. Now that the foundations have been laid, roads, railways, and relationships, it's time to zoom out. Because Serbia isn't just a grateful partner, it's a key piece on a much larger chessboard. This is China's Belt and Road Initiative, also known as the BRI, a massive global development strategy that spans continents, connects economies, and redefines power. And Serbia? It's right in the middle of it. Situated on the Danube River, with easy access to Central and Eastern Europe, Serbia offers something priceless to China, a backdoor into Europe that doesn't rely on the heavily guarded gates of the EU. While Western countries like Germany or France raise eyebrows at Chinese investment, Serbia welcomes it with open arms. That's why China has poured billions into turning Serbia into a logistics hub. New industrial zones are popping up across the country, some focused on manufacturing, others on storage and distribution. Think of them as digital-age Silk Road outposts, modern-day trading forts that keep China's supply chains moving, even under pressure from geopolitical tensions. And it doesn't stop with roads and railways. China is also wiring Serbia for the future. From 5G networks built by Huawei to smart city tech that manages traffic, power grids, and public services, China isn't just moving goods. It's embedding itself in the digital DNA of the region. This is strategy at the highest level. Infrastructure becomes influence, technology becomes trust, and Serbia becomes China's anchor in Europe. While the West debates how to respond, China is already there, boots on the ground, blueprints in hand, and contracts signed. And for Serbia, this isn't just about money or speed. It's about carving out a strategic role in a world where alliances are shifting fast. As Chinese trains roll through Serbian towns and Chinese tech powers Serbian cities, the balance of power in Europe is beginning to tilt, ever so slightly, toward the east. Step back and take it all in, from highways and railways to medical labs, wine farms, and military tech. China isn't just helping Serbia grow, it's redefining how nations align themselves in the 21st century. This isn't a one-off alliance. It's part of a global trend, a shift away from a world dominated by a single Western narrative. As Europe grapples with internal divisions and economic stagnation, Serbia has become a test case, a gateway for Chinese influence in the heart of the continent. And here's the thing, it's working. Serbia gets infrastructure, markets, and modern technology. China gets a foothold in Europe, trust from a key regional player, and a success story to point to. But this raises serious questions. Is Serbia simply making smart choices for its future? Or is this the beginning of a new geopolitical axis, one that challenges the old power structures of Europe? In Brussels, Paris, and Berlin, alarm bells are ringing, because this isn't just about trade routes or fast trains. It's about influence. It's about the future of European sovereignty. And while critics worry, others are watching closely. Could other Balkan nations follow Serbia's lead? Will smaller states now look east instead of west? What's clear is this: China is playing the long game, with patience, precision, and power. And Serbia, it may just be the first chapter in a much bigger European story. What do you think? So now we turn to you. Is this a dangerous drift away from the West, or a smart pivot in a changing world? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. And if you want to keep exploring how China is reshaping global power through strategy, technology, and partnerships, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because the world is shifting, and understanding the new rules starts right here.